تسمية النائب الأستاذ فنان سلام.
Good afternoon. It is Saturday, April 13th. I'm Yumna Naufal, and these are today's headlines. Leaders of the March 8 camp have allegedly reached an agreement on their main conditions for a new cabinet. British military scientists release a report confirming the use of chemical weapons in the Syrian civil war. And the judge presiding over the retrial of ousted Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak has withdrawn himself from the case, causing much anger and chaos in court. The March 8 camp will continue to facilitate Prime Minister-designate Tamam Salam's mission to form a new government amid an agreement being allegedly reached between its members. The Safir newspaper said that a meeting had taken place on Friday morning between the Hezbollah leader's aide, Hussein Khalil, Speaker Nabih Berri's political aide, caretaker Minister Ali Hassan Khalil, and Free Patriotic Movement leader MP Michel Aoun's aide, caretaker Minister Gibran Bassil, during which they agreed on core issues over the new government that they will not waver on. They opposed any violation in the manner in which the cabinet will be formed, adding that the former parliamentary majority should be represented at the cabinet according to its true political size. The March 8 leaders also voiced their commitment to the Taif Accord and stressed the importance of forming a political cabinet capable of tackling the developments in the region. The series of kidnappings between the Bekaa town of Arsail and the Jafar clan ended with the release of the remaining captives held by both sides. 7 Arsail residents were released by the Jafar clan, while 5 clan members were released by locals from the town. The case was resolved through the Army intelligence assistance. Hussein Jafar, who is a member of the Jafar clan, who was abducted in March by unidentified armed men and taken to Syria, was freed and arrived in Arsail yesterday night. The families of Arsail had collected the ransom demanded by the kidnappers, which amounted to about $139,000. A number of the Arsail dignitaries headed to the Syrian region of Yabrud, where the kidnappers are, under the close supervision of the Lebanese army. A fresh wave of tit-for-tat kidnappings erupted on Thursday between members of the Jafar clan and residents of Arsail after mediators almost managed to secure a swap deal between the rival parties. And Lebanese Forces leader Samir Jaja renewed the demand for the rise of a state capable of achieving stability, security and justice for all in Lebanon. He said, quote, "We realize now more than ever that war does not benefit any side, which is why we seek the rise of a strong state capable of imposing its authority through its territories." He made his remarks before a delegation from the Joy of Giving nonprofit organization on the occasion of the 38th anniversary of the eruption of the Lebanese Civil War back on April 13th, 1975. Jaja added, quote, "I understand your concerns, as no one likes a war, and when I was young, I was fearful over my fate and that of my family. We have high expectations from the youth of Lebanon. You are a promising future for the country, and you must continue the struggle." The civil war broke out in 1975 and ended in 1990 through the Saudi-sponsored Taif Accord signed in 1989. Around 120,000 people were killed in the unrest and over 75,000 remain missing. So many different conferences taking over in Beirut, and joining us now to talk about it is Vice President of the Lebanese Franchise Association, Madiha Raslan. Hi Madiha, how are you?
Hello, hi Yumna.
We are here today to talk about 2 conferences taking place next week, BFEX 2013 and the World Franchise Council. Can you tell me a little bit about both?
Yeah, sure. Actually, we're having Franchise Lebanon. Franchise Lebanon is the umbrella of the Franchise Week for the Lebanese Franchise Association. It starts on the 15th and 16th of April with the WFC meeting, which is the World Franchise Council meeting. We are hosting it in Lebanon, and we are receiving more than 40 countries representing their nation in franchising. On the 17th and 18th, we're having BFEX, which is Beirut International Franchise Forum and Exhibition, but this year it's without the exhibition. And we are organizing this event. This is an annual conference for the Lebanese Franchise Association. We are organizing it with our partners, the الاقتصاد والأعمال Group. It starts on the 17th and for 2 days, 17th and 18th.
Madiha, why is this important? I mean, I know you are the vice president of the Lebanese Franchise Association, but what should people and our viewers know about the LFA?
You know, our association promotes franchises because we believe that franchise is it's the best model to expand business. And Lebanon has lots of concepts and good concepts that are franchisable and who sold their franchises already to abroad. So in this event, in BFEX, we usually exchange all the new trends for the franchise, and we talk about the retail industry. There are going to be 4 panels actually in this, on the first day. We will talk about the in-store marketing, also about the e-commerce and how it's affecting the retail business. We will talk also about the diaspora, the Lebanese diaspora and the franchise abroad. And there was the last topic. I forgot about it.
What do you expect to come out of this conference? I mean, I know you have it every year. Am I right?
Yeah, sure. We have this.
What do you expect to come out of this conference this year? Do you have expectations this year that you did not have maybe last year?
You know, we are initiating on the next day something we call it's French branding Lebanon, which branding a nation. This is an initiation from a Lebanese Franchise Association. We're having a panel at 9:30 in Phoenicia Hotel to talk about how to franchise our nation. This panel will be split into 2 parts. On the first part, they're going to be experts who made already franchise,
yes,
like franchise Oman,
right? It says here
Malaysia.
particularly Mr. Simon Anholt, the
yeah,
definitive authority on the subject.
And there are
right.
2 more experts too. They will talk from the technical side and they will address us about how to start to brand our nation. And the second part, there is the Lebanese anchors who are professionals and public figures from the media, business, maybe the tourism side, business side too, and they will give their opinion about their vision about Lebanon. After this panel, we're going to have like a points and a paper.
It says, I want to cut you for one last question. It says here that the anchors are excellent representations of Lebanon brand and the Lebanon that we aspire for the future generation. What do you think Lebanon has to offer for the future generation?
Lebanon has a lot to offer. First of all, Lebanon, we're not talking about Lebanon from the touristic side. We're talking about the value of the people in Lebanon, about the Lebanese way of life that we want to expand and to promote it outside Lebanon. We have a lot to put and a lot to talk about and to show the people outside that Lebanon really has an added value in our way of life, in la joie de vivre, if you want to say it in French.
Yes, la joie de vivre.
This is what we want to expand, to show the others.
Thank you so much, Madiha.
Thank you.
That was Madiha Arslan, the Vice President of the Lebanese Franchise Association. The number of Syrian refugees receiving aid from the UNHCR has reached 416,000 in Lebanon. According to its weekly report, the UN High Commissioner for Refugees said some 18,000 people registered with the UNHCR this week, putting the total number at 416,000. It added that the opening of the new registration site in Tyre, south of Lebanon, has led to the doubling of the number of people registering on a daily basis from 300 to 600. That number is expected to reach 900 by the end of this month. The commissioner estimates that 400,000 additional Syrians are in the country but have not yet registered with the UN. Lebanon expects the total number to reach 1 million in the summer. Government officials have appealed to Arab countries to house additional refugees that will cross into Lebanon the coming months and asked donor states to fulfill their financial pledges towards hosting countries, including Jordan and Iraq. British military scientists have found forensic evidence that chemical weapons have been used in the conflict in Syria. The Times newspaper reported a soil sample thought to have been taken from an area close to Damascus and smuggled back to Britain has provided proof that some kind of chemical weapon has been fired. The tests were carried out at the Ministry of Defense's Chemical and Biological Research Establishment in Porton Down. And it added in the front page story that diplomats at the UN said on Thursday that Western nations have hard evidence that chemical weapons have been used at least once in the Syrian war. However, the British team was unable to discern whether the weapons had been fired by President Assad's regime or by the rebels fighting him, nor could they say if there has been widespread use. The retrial of former Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak collapsed when the presiding judge withdrew from the case and referred it to another court. Judge Mustafa Hassan Abdallah, who like most of the current judiciary was appointed under Mubarak, said he had decided to refer the case to the Cairo Appeals Court as he felt uneasy in reviewing the case. He did not explain his decision further, but Abdallah's announcement caused an indefinite adjournment that sparked anger in the courtroom. Relatives of the demonstrators killed in the 2011 uprising stood up in the court chanting, "The people demand the execution of Mubarak." However, outside the heavily guarded compound, pro-Mubarak demonstrators outnumbered opponents. The two groups were kept well apart by a police cordon, and there was no incident. It was the first time Mubarak had been seen in public since he was convicted last June on grounds of failing to stop the killing rather than actually ordering it. Coming up next, an Indonesian plane carrying 172 passengers breaks in two after missing the runway in Bali. Stay with us. Welcome back. David Cameron is due to hold further talks about European reform with the German Chancellor Angela Merkel. In an unusual move, Mrs. Merkel invited the Prime Minister and his family to stay at her official residence, according to the federal government guest house, reflecting the good relationship between the two leaders and the German Chancellor's determination to keep Britain in the EU. Cameron is expected to argue that EU needs to change to allow the UK, along with other members, not to be bound by all of its decisions. Speaking to reporters earlier this week, Cameron said the best outcome for Britain would be membership of a reformed European Union. The leaders will also be discussing the forthcoming G8 summit and the situation in Syria. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry is meeting with China's top leaders in a bid to persuade them to exert pressure on North Korea to scale back its belligerent rhetoric and return to nuclear talks. Traveling to Beijing for the first time as Secretary of State, Kerry made his intentions clear that China should take a more activist stance toward North Korea. Kerry told China that as North Korea's main trading partner, financial backer, and diplomatic ally, it has a unique ability to use its leverage against the isolated state. Kerry's visit to Asia, which will include a stop in Tokyo on Sunday, takes place after weeks of shrill North Korean threats of war since the imposition of new UN sanctions in response to its third nuclear test in February. North Korea has repeatedly said it will not abandon nuclear weapons, which it said on Friday were its treasured guarantor of security.
I want to be clear that North Korea has not demonstrated the capability to deploy a nuclear-armed missile. The United States continues to closely monitor the North Korean nuclear program and calls upon North Korea to honor its international obligations. North Korea has continued to flout its international obligations with regards to the commitment to denuclearize the Korean Peninsula, and it has continued to flout its international obligations when it comes to development of missile technologies. North Koreans have tested nuclear weapons, and they have developed some missile technology. What they have not done is demonstrate a capacity to, a capability to deploy a nuclear-armed missile, attach a warhead to a missile and fire it. There is no question that they continue to, in direct and flagrant violation of their commitments, to develop these programs, and we have seen them do that, and they have suffered consequences for doing it.
A passenger plane with 172 people on board missed the runway at Indonesia's Bali airport and landed into the sea, causing only minor injuries. The Lion Air Boeing 737 was coming in to land at Denpasar Airport at the Indonesian resort island when it skidded off the end of the runway. According to Arif Wahyundi, head of the Bali police, all of the passengers and crew were evacuated from the plane and taken into the airport terminal for treatment. This marks the end of our bulletin for today. Let me remind you of the top stories. Leaders of the March 8 camp have allegedly reached an agreement on their main conditions for a new cabinet. British military scientists released a report confirming the use of chemical weapons in the Syrian civil war. And the judge presiding over the retrial of ousted Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak withdraws from the case, causing much anger and chaos in court. Those are your Saturday headlines live in Beirut. I'm Yumna Naufal. Join us again tomorrow for what's making headlines in Lebanon and around the world.
تسمية النائب الأستاذ فنان سناء.